Yeah, it's like we're not watching an educational
No.
YouTube video about sex.
Shane
No.
probably did before he had sex with Ilya for
Probably.
the first
Oh,
time.
he
I
definitely
know he
did.
was on
That's
YouTube how to douche correctly. Like,
Dude, that boy
100%
was
that is still him.
100% prepped and ready before Ilya was at that door.
hi everyone. Welcome back to LoveCast, the BL podcast. I'm your host Alexa, and with me are my fellow hosts Pixie and Kayla.
Hey.
Hey.
Today we're doing a deep dive on Canada's best export yet, the gay ice hockey series that's quickly taken over the entire world, Heated Rivalry. It had to be done. It had to be done. Full disclosure, we originally recorded this to be our second episode in the season, but the more I sat on it, I was like, I feel like we just need to get this episode out now while everyone is like really talking about the show. So we're recording this as our second episode. We'll be releasing it as our first episode. So when you do watch episode 2 in a couple weeks, things will be a lot more like welcome to season 6 compared to this one, just because we recorded it differently. But I think it'll still be fine. I think it's worthwhile to release this one first.
Yeah.
We're going to start with the synopsis. Shane Hollander and Ilya Rozanov are two professional ice hockey players who compete on rival teams, the Montreal Metros and the Boston Raiders, respectively. Although their on-ice rivalry is amplified by media coverage and public perception, the two develop a private, initially casual sexual relationship that continues intermittently over several years as they pursue their hockey careers. That is the official synopsis pulled from Wikipedia. I feel like at this point, if you're watching this and you are not aware of Heated Rivalry, what are you doing? All that to
Right,
say,
yeah.
there's gonna be, our deep dives are always very spoiler heavy. So, if you're not watched the show yet, if you're listening or watching this to get an idea of the show before you dive in, just know it will be very spoiler heavy. So, if you're using this as your decision maker, just come prepared for, we're getting in depth on pretty much everything that we could think of, which like we were saying, it's still not even going to be like, it's barely going to be scratching the surface of everything this show has to offer, I feel. So, but yes, spoilers ahead for sure.
Yes.
Okay, well, we have a lot to get through. We detailed a lot of notes on this show, so I think we're just gonna dive in. How we usually do our deep dives, if this is maybe your first LoveCast episode that you're tuning into, we kind of do a rundown on things like production, on acting, on the overall story and writing, and then we dive deeper into some topics that really struck us as viewers. And with this show in particular, we're going to talk a lot about the massive reception that it has been seeing over the past 6 or so weeks that it's been out. And we're probably going to get off of topic. We're probably going to tangent a little bit, ramble a lot, but that's the general structure we like to keep. All right, so diving into our thoughts on the production of the series first. Starting with the editing, this series is famously, it was a very small project. They had a very small budget. They filmed it in just over, it was like a month and a week or so, like I think like 36 or 37 days. Despite that, like, you can't really tell. Like, I think it really speaks to what you can do with a small budget when you're passionate about a project.
I mean, for me, it looks like Jacob Tierney, the director, really had a vision, really, really clear vision going in. So he knew exactly how he wanted it to look like. And you do notice the small budgets at some points, like when they're doing press conference, you can see like it's just them. They're not showing the audience or the reporters. In the award shows, you're not seeing the audience, just like because they can't afford the extra
The
what do you
extras.
call them?
They said they had like 5 extras,
Yeah,
and like some of that was like
extras.
crew from the show, like stepping in on scenes where it was really needed. So
Yeah. 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 So at some point, it's like it's obvious that they had a smaller budget, but like from the quality of work and how they worked around it, it's really impressive. It's like you don't need to have like this huge budget to get something good. And I love that they're not relying on like a big budget to make something. Like there's substance in the storytelling and the videography and the aesthetics and everything.
yeah.
I feel like if you look really closely, you can maybe tell that their budget wasn't that big. But I feel like they hit it really well because there were so many moments where I'm realizing now, as more behind the scenes footage is coming out, that they totally fooled me into thinking that some of these backdrops for scenes were real.
Right.
Like, I had no idea that the beach scenes were in a studio, like they're in a soundstage, or like the scene where they're sitting and eating, the like city backdrop isn't real. Like, totally fooled me. Maybe I'm a little like naive, like I'm not looking too closely because I'm focusing on Ilya and Shane. But they really like, I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are like low-key geniuses.
Right. Like the Vegas scene when they're on top of the building and looking
Yeah.
out at Vegas at night, like all of that is just like that's not there. And I was like,
Crazy.
that has to be like a combination of really great acting and a really good system that they set up, like the screen they used for it. But also I think like the acting and the storytelling is so compelling that you don't really like start to analyze the background because you're so locked in on
100%.
what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always just focused on Shane and Ilya or whoever their characters were in that scene. That like there probably were like more signs that they didn't have a lot of budget that if I watched again I would maybe pick up on if I was looking for them. But like that's not what I was focused on, so it doesn't even come to mind. And honestly, like I really just think like people yearn for media that has heart, especially in Hollywood and Western media. Like we have this issue where everything's a remake, everything's a reboot, or everything's like a big blockbuster Marvel movie that has all the budget in the world, but like there's no heart, there's no earnesty in it, and this is what Heated Rivalry has. So, and I think we'll talk about that a lot more when we get into the sex versus the plot of the show and how sex played into everything. But there is so much heart built into this show that like the production doesn't even like, I don't know, you just don't think about it when you're watching.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Like in Western countries, the TV series and movies we get that are deeply like the plot is deeply put in romance. They're not taken seriously. They're not like given like the seriousness they should get. Like it's all very like. I don't know. It feels often like anything that women tends to like is just downplayed as not as good, and just like the whole Hallmark movie standard. And but yeah,
Yeah, romance is always going to be looked down on as like taken less seriously, but I think when you have a show like this that has really taken over the cultural zeitgeist, it like really forces people to confront that stereotype perception that they have about romance media and really look into why people are connecting with things. But yeah, a lot more to be said there. Some of the other production elements that we wanted to touch on, I really wanted to talk about the makeup and wardrobe because I've seen a lot of people comment on how this show was filmed, the show takes place over the course of like 8-9 years while they're having this situationship that started from their rookie season or before their rookie season of hockey all the way up to them being like well-known star hockey players well into their career. And like when they start the show, the characters in the show are meant to be what, like 17, 18, like very young teenagers. And it goes up into their mid-20s. And a lot of people have pointed out that like through the use of makeup and wardrobe and hair, and I'm sure a little bit of editing, it genuinely looks like they are aging over the course of these years that are taking place in the show, despite this being filmed over the course of a month. So, and it's like little things about like the hair maybe looking different, or, you know, how they do the makeup, and like those things I think don't often get a lot of like shout out when you're talking about the production of a show. But I think like it was a really small thing that really added to like this years long relationship, situationship, connection that they had feeling legitimate, and like you're growing with the characters over the years.
Yeah, and I think like you can especially see it like with Ilya, especially because his accent does like evolve throughout
the more
the
time
show.
he spends in America.
His English does get better.
Yeah.
And I think that's so impressive, especially for an actor who isn't actually Russian. That is crazy how they managed to, like, how he managed to do that.
Yeah. So the next production element that I think there's a lot to talk about is the soundtrack of the show and the music that they use in the show. There are so many scenes in the show that are iconic, not just because of what's happening, what the dialogue is, what point we're at in the story, but because of the music that they chose to accompany those scenes. I think the big one that we have to talk about, Kayla, you wrote a lot of notes about this one, is all the things she said, really having like a cultural resurgence because of the show and how it was used in that club scene.
Yeah, I felt so happy. I felt, you know how like when Running Up That Hill went viral in Stranger Things? I kind of felt that same feeling very like, oh my gosh, this song that I have loved for like years and years and years is randomly viral. Tattoo is like, they're a cultural phenomenon on their own. And I feel like that really adds to the factor of their song being used in the show and being used specifically in that club scene. Like, you know, Tattoo were a bit gimmicky. They were a marketing gimmick. They weren't really like a couple. They weren't really together or whatever. But I think they represented a lot for the LGBTQ plus community at the time. It was like a very grand statement that you have this supposedly like lesbian duo coming out of Russia, which, as we know, can be a very homophobic place. So I feel like that like history element adds, if that makes sense, to the reason that it's used in the show, because we see that like Ilya, obviously he's like, my family can't know that we're together, my family can't know that we're gay, I can't go back to Russia, especially if like it comes out that he's gay or whatever, like it will just be dangerous for him. So it's really interesting that they use like this song specifically, I think. And the club scene is just like very impactful in general. Like obviously the lyrics fit perfectly with what they're going through.
It's kind of interesting because in that scene, like not a lot is happening. They're just standing there staring at each other for a really long time. But you're sort of like, the song is doing so much in that moment. And it's honestly, it's so heartbreaking to see because like, I don't know, like it's so perfectly edited and with the song, and they're not saying a word, they're just like staring basically at the camera, both. Like it's, oh no, it was crazy.
It's honestly like that kind of scene is honestly, it's like a rite of passage in queer media where you have like this club scene or this party scene where the two parties are staring longingly at each other, like imagining what could be. It happened in Scam. It happened in Red, White, and Royal Blue. It happened in Young Royals. There was the party scene in Heartstopper where Kit Connor's character is watching Tara and Darcy like be in love and like yearning for that. So like it is such like it. I guess maybe specifically in Western queer media.
It's a Western thing,
It's like a rite of passage in queer media that the gays have to yearn for each other on the dance floor. Like, it must happen.
That's so true.
And yeah, like the music here just really amplified like all of the feelings that were being conveyed wordlessly in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other very iconic music moment that we got from this show was the use of I'll Believe in Anything by Wolf Parade, which happened during Scott and Kip's ice rink kiss at the end of episode 5. And it was also the title of episode 5 was I'll Believe in Anything. And it's just another thing where like not only like the lyrics, but the way like even where they place the music, like the way the music swelled, like when Scott and Kip finally kissed and things like that. Oh, like it's just so well done. And every TikTok edit I see, every reel I see is using either I'll Believe her in Anything and all the things she said, or like even the instrumental music from the show. I think they just released the instrumental soundtrack and people are going crazy over that. Like just really, really good music use all around.
While we're on that scene, I'm just like I'm so fascinated by the camera work there, because like they are showing showing them on this and then going back to Ilya and Shane, and they're all like really like what is happening, like we obviously
the camera like whipping around them.
We know what he's gonna do, but having Ilya and Shane get all like it kind of affects you, and you get like the feeling of like, oh, what is gonna happen?
You have the same butterflies that they have. You're like, what am I watching here? Like, you know, you're watching something so significant to them through their eyes. Like,
So good.
Such a good one.
So good.
I kind of want to backtrack a little bit, but I thought it was really cute. I saw a TikTok or a reel of the DJ, I guess, who did the remix for All the Things She Said that was used in the club scene, talking about how like that show using the song has like changed his life, and that he's just like so grateful for like them choosing to use his remix and stuff like that. And I just thought that was like a really cute little like real life impact moment of something that is seemingly so small but also like so significant.
Yeah, I did see Jacob Tierney talking about like how song use in series and stuff like that and what you can afford. But he also talked about like often singers are really, they don't want you to use their songs, which obviously like they don't really know what you're gonna use the song for. So I can understand that they're not always willing. And like he said, like no one knew that this show was gonna take off. Like this could be nothing, right? So I just like think it's amazing that he's like taking these artists and like brought them forth in that way. They've been getting a lot of attention. Like I've been getting TikToks from the other artists as well. Like there are some Canadian artists. I love those songs. And yeah, it's kind of heartwarming to see.
100%. Well, speaking of a Jacob Tierney, talking about kind of segueing into like the directing and just the creation of the show, Jacob, he's listed as just the creator of Heated Rivalry in general. He directed, I think he wrote, from what I've seen in interviews, I think he wrote the entirety of season 1. He talked a little bit about maybe bringing on other writers for season 2 just to kind of ease that burden a little bit. But like, I think we owe a lot of this show to Jacob Tierney and his vision. And I know, Pixie, you talked like when we did our top BLs and you were talking about the way Jacob has talked about this show and adapting like a male romance, a BL, whatever you want to call it. How he just has a lot of respect for it.
He's talked about a lot about like how he respects the audience of these books, and he understands the reason why a lot of women prefer to watch media or read media that is with men in it instead of women. And I've just like, I find it so refreshing to listen to him be so open about it, because I know there's a lot of discourse online, especially in the queer community, if this is okay for women to be in gay spaces. And yeah, I appreciate that he's listened to the fans of the book, and he has like, he understood why they liked it when he started writing, and he had so much respect for the source material. I After watching the 2 first episodes, I went and read the books, and he's really like respected what happens in the books. And I know he said, like, Rachel Reed, who's the author, she gave him like, just do whatever you want with the book. So he could do whatever he wanted, but like, he specifically went in and wanted to keep the integrity of the books to tell the story, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think adaptations are always hard, especially when it comes from a very well-loved like novel specifically. And I know Hudson and Connor, who played Shane and Ilya, have talked a lot about how like they had to have these discussions with Jacob about how like people might just hate the fact that you are not who they pictured as these characters, or that this is not how they pictured this story going. But I did buy the books. I have not read them yet. Or at least I bought the first one, I think. But everyone I've seen talking about it it feels like they have so much love for both adaptation, both mediums, that's the word I was looking for, and how they differ and how they're the same and things like that. So it is really interesting to see that, like, even if there are differences or changes, it's like when you have that respect and that passion and just that like care for the characters in the story, I think people are going to be open to smaller changes here or there if they need to be made and things like that.
Yeah, I think like everyone who reads know that not everything can be put on screen, because a lot of it is inner monologue, and no one wants to have a TV show where you're constantly hearing the inner monologue of the character. That is not great. So the thing where Jacob used the text messaging, like the writing out and then deleting it afterwards, to show how what Shane is thinking. Brilliant. And I've heard a lot of other of the fans of the books also like say that they appreciated how it was handled. So I think a lot of like discourse between readers and TV shows and stuff like that has to do with the method of like translating it onto the screen, which I think Jacob really balanced really well.
Yeah. And I think the other element, of course, that really makes this show what it is the acting that came from the cast involved. Almost all of these actors are not, I would say, lesser known actors. I would say they're all lesser known actors. There are a couple exceptions, like Sophie Nélisse, who played Rose, was in Yellow Jackets, which is a pretty big series. And they've all had like acting careers before this, but I think for most of them, this is considered a breakout role for them. So of course we have Hudson Williams as Shane Hollander and Connor Story as Ilya Rozanoff. We also have Frances Arnaud, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who played Scott Hunter, and Robbie Graham Kuntz as Kip Grady, Sophie Nélisse as Rose Landry, and Ksenia Karlamova as Svetlana. Yeah. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that pronunciation. I think like she was the only Russian character that's actually Russian. She's Russian. Yeah. Everyone else is very like, even like Francis Arnaud, like his voice versus Scott Hunter's voice was a huge difference. But I feel like I didn't really know where to put this, but I was like, I feel like we can't talk about the casting without discussing Connor being casted as Ilya Rosanov, and the fact that he is like from Texas and he had almost perfected a Russian accent and Russian language for this show. Like, it's just insane. Like, I got insane whiplash the first time I heard an interview, because I didn't really watch any interviews until a couple episodes into the show, and I heard him speak, and I was like, who is this man? Like,
that Connor and Ilya are two completely different. Like, they could not be in the room together because they are so different. And that is so amazing. And that he said, like, he only had like a couple of weeks to actually learn anything.
And he was doing intensive like dialogue lessons every single day. What?
Like, the monologue he has under the bridge, like, how do you even do that? And I saw a TikTok of a Russian actually doing that monologue, and it doesn't sound a lot like, it does sound really similar. Like, he almost nailed it. So, and obviously us as non-Russian speakers will not hear a difference, but
no, I've seen a lot of Russian speakers kind of really praise that performance, and just like knowing the time frame that he had to make that work. Like, I think he said it's like the pride of his life so far, like being able to do that, and like very, very validly so. Like, that's just a wild amount of dedication and capability goes into being able to do something like that and make it so believable.
I heard on set that Connor was so believable that Ksenia sometimes would forget that he's not Russian and talk to him in Russian after the filming stopped.
That's so funny.
That's so cute.
Yeah, such a solid cast and such good chemistry coming from all of the characters and the actors who played them. I mean, Shane and Ilya's chemistry is, I think, the reason why this show has taken the world by storm. Not only the sexual chemistry, which, you know, is the thing that goes viral first, maybe, but the emotional chemistry that their characters have throughout the show that builds is just so good. Hudson and Connor have talked a lot about how easy it was for them to connect, and you know, they describe each other as like best friends and like platonic soulmates and stuff like that. A lot of people have asked them, like, is it hard to play like characters that are like so passionately in love with each other? And they're just like, it's fine, we're here for it, you know, we're having a good time.
Those two, like, I find it so hilarious because I was like looking at the comment section of one of the interviews they did, and a lot of people were commenting like, are they really not together? Are they really not dating? What is this? Like, what is happening here? And I'm just like, you sweet summer child, you don't know.
It's like men being comfortable being like intimate and like physical with each other is such a foreign concept to people, which is so sad on a certain level. But it's also just like, sometimes you just gotta kiss on your best friend. Like, it's like that sometimes.
But honestly, what they're doing, like how they're interacting, it's like basically what they perfected in Thailand with like shipping and stuff.
Fan service.
Yeah,
I saw a TikTok today that's like, they are doing fan service to an extent.
Sometimes fan service comes naturally, and that is fine. So I'm not saying that they're putting on a performance. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're just performative in these interviews.
Exactly.
But it's fan service, it's 100%.
Yeah, I think especially with like, and I think we might talk on this a little bit more later on, like Hudson, especially with like the way he has latched on to the sexual comments about the show and be like, yeah, like I want to fuck, you know, let's fuck me up next season and stuff like that. Like that is him. Like, it's interesting because it's people saying he's not media trained,
he is
but
so
it's also like it's perfect media training. Like he knows what the fans are picking up on, and he's playing that. And yes, like I think he has a very natural, unhinged energy. But him saying like, "Oh, I would take Shane and I would fuck that little boy," like that is fan service. Like he knows what he's doing, and it's very well done.
Like literally,
and it's also enjoyable to watch. Like like it's very interesting
fun.
To see how it's all played out.
I think like there's something about seeing like him having fun with the situation and not taking it so serious and being careful. Because that's what we often see, especially with the queer shows. You might have actors who are trying to be a little more down about their roles in it, just because there are a big majority of homophobic people in the world. So it's just nice to see everyone just like being happy and openly and fun and like it's just fun.
Yeah, and they also know how to have like very thoughtful and serious answers when the questions call for them. Like I've seen them talk about why women connect to the show and why queer people connect to this show, and how, professional athletes are coming to them, sending them DMs about how this show is like very impactful, and like they know when to be silly, like when they're reading thirst tweets, versus be more serious and like have thoughtful discussions. Dude, so I almost really well done.
I almost fell off my chair when I was watching a podcast interview that Connor was on alone, and he started talking about boy love.
Yeah, I did see that. Have you seen the term boy love? I was like, what are we doing here?
Cute.
Yeah, and saying boy love. And they were like, I think it's like a thing from Asia. And I was like, BL mention.
I love it.
Yeah, I honestly feel like Hudson and Connor being so like unabashedly, I guess, just like open to the story and the sexual nature of it and the queer nature of it, not acting like they like I think some actors sometimes when they play queer roles and then you see them in press, it's like what you said, they tone it down a lot. It's almost like they're kind of like ashamed or they're being like, oh, I'm not gay. Yeah. I'm just like playing this role. Like, oh, we're not together. We're just playing this role. But I like that they are so unhinged about it, but also that they care so much about it. It honestly, the way that they are this press run makes me feel even more invested in the show.
100%.
Like it really, it adds a whole nother like element of just like, oh, I'm so obsessed with this show, is just them, their chemistry in real life.
Yeah, I will say when I watched the first 2 episodes of the show, like I was not invested to the same level that other people were. Like
other people is me.
You, our Discord server, like even the internet at that time was like so into the show, and I was like, okay, this is good, but I'm just like not feeling it the way other people are. And then like I did start getting fed like those interviews and stuff like that, and I really connected with Hudson and Connor. And then kind of segueing, like Scott and Kip's episode like really did something for me.
I knew it would.
And so like those 2 things in combination like just really like invested me into the show. And then of course like at like episodes 5 and 6
blew it.
Absolute masterpieces of media, standing alone as they are. But it was like really was like Hudson and Connor. I think that really made me like want to circle back and be like, okay, I want to connect to this show the way they've connected to this show and the way other people have. And then that kind of coincided with episode 3 coming on the air, and that's like what I think really hooked me into the show. But like Scott and Kip's episode, kind of just segueing there, and Scott and Kip as characters, although they really only have this one episode that focuses completely on them, it is quite literally like the game changer, which I think is what their novel
that is what
their
the novel is called.
Rachel Reed is called. For the narrative and for Shane and Ilya, like down the line, at least for Shane and Ilya, once we get to episode 5. But that episode, maybe because it was like narratively told while we were still getting like a little bit of like time jumping and things like that. It was narratively very different from the first two episodes of, you know, the beginning of Shane and Ilya's relationship, and like the emotionality of it, and like I don't know, it's just like it really really like hooked me in, and I really felt for Scott and Kip. And then like after getting that episode, I was like, okay, I need to see how this plays into the story, because there are a lot of people that were like, why are we getting this episode about these two random, like this other hockey player that's not part of the show? But then it comes back and is so meaningful in the long run.
I think a lot of people, especially the ones who had read the book, were really disappointed because they wanted a whole season for Scott and Kip. But I understand why they used Heated Rivalry and did it the way they did it. And I do think it works with that one episode, because I know it's a lot in one episode, but we're used to episode 1 and 2. We're used to like huge time jumps. Like
we went through like 5 years in the first 2 episodes.
Fast. So the fact that they're kind of moving through Scott and Kip's timeline story so fast, you don't even really register that, because you've been used to all of these like fast-paced time skips and stuff. So I think like it was good, but I also thought I had, at that point, I'd read the novels, so I knew what was going to happen, and I knew why they put it in there. So I was just like, everyone was discussing that it felt random, and I'm just like, but we need them. We're not getting to the cottage without them.
Yeah, it is a very interesting choice narratively to just, and it's not like shows do this all the time where they'll dedicate an entire episode to characters who don't seem important, like Scott Hunter. Like, you know, we've seen him a couple of times here and there, but up until that point we were just like, okay, he's just another player in the hockey league. So like to have this full episode dedicated to him and episode 3 of the show, like it is a very interesting choice narratively. But I don't know, I really liked it. It really switched things up, and then it does like become so important that like you understand retroactively.
I will say one thing, the man in the crease who is shitting on Scott all the time.
Oh, the podcast that he's always listening to that are like, he sucks.
Like, dude, that was so unnecessary. I understand they took like in the book it's actually Kip hears a random hockey fan in his shop saying that Scott sucks and all of that. So it's just a random person on the street saying it. But I understand that they need that dialogue because they need to show that he's in a slump. Like he's doing really shitty, which is what starts it all. But it was a weird choice to have like the whole podcast thing talking smack like that. Just like those guys are assholes.
It made me sad that he was like listening to these people like being dicks about him. And then when they came back in episode 5, I was like, okay, we're circling back to Scott and Kip again, because if they're showing him running, listening to this fuck ass podcast, then I know he's gonna be relevant in this episode somehow.
Yes.
But yeah, and Kayla, I think you put in the notes that their kiss on the ice rink felt like the most important thing to ever happen. And like, I think we kind of talked about that with the production of how it was filmed, but like it really did. Yeah. Like it felt like everything in that moment, because it was everything to the characters in that moment.
But it's so interesting because if you look at Shane's parents as well, like they're sort of like, oh, like that's new, but they're not having a huge reaction to it. Like Shane is freaking out. They're just sitting there watching. They're like, oh yeah, there's kissing on TV. That's what happens with hockey now. But it's
even the commentators were like, oh, you don't see that every day in hockey. Right? I was like, it's never been seen before. Like the whole thing is that like Scott quite literally changed the game for hockey players. And like, yeah, it is like really like that juxtaposition of like Shane's parents and the other hockey team members that I think Ilya is watching the game with. Like, it's just a thing that happened to them. But like Ilya said in episode 6, like that changed everything for
it's the game
both
changer.
of them, but for him specifically. Yeah. So
It's what gave us the cottage.
Oh, the cottage.
The cottage.
Yeah, and then the show really depicts all kinds of love. You know, we have platonic, we have romantic, familial, the camaraderie between teammates. There's just a lot of chemistry between the entire cast. I love fucking Hayden as a character and how he like becomes Shane's best friend.
Dude, does he have 10
his team.
kids by now? Like, how many kids?
I think so.
Yes.
Like,
I cannot keep
How does
track.
he have time?
yeah, because when they're at the cottage, he's just had another kid, but I
think it's like his fifth kid when they're
Yeah.
at the cottage or something like that. Like,
well,
in terms of like platonic relationships, like Shane and Rose was something that was very, very important to turn from a forced romantic relationship, or, you know, like Shane said, he generally liked Rose in some ways, but not in the ways that he needed to becoming like the first person that he could confide in and like talk to about his queerness. And I think, was I maybe watching Freddie's reaction to Heated Rivalry, where they were talking about how like Shane needed someone to be able to have those conversations with, for him to be able to have that conversation with Ilya that comes in episode 5, where he is telling Ilya that he's gay. And like that sort of starts that change in their relationship for them. So I think that one's a really important one. Obviously Svetlana is huge for Ilya, you know, never really holding it against him that he doesn't want her, as she said, the way that she maybe wants him and things like that. So great relationships from the women in this show and things like that as well. All right, now we're getting more into the story of the show, talking about the plot, the writing, a lot of the themes that we saw come up. So the plot of this show, obviously this show, I don't think it's sold this way, but the media, and I would say a lot of the news outlets, have pushed it as softcore porn, basically. Like, that is what, like, when you first hear people talking about Heated Rivalry, you're going to hear it's the gay sex show, it's the softcore porn hockey show. And sex is a huge part of the show because it's how Shane and Ilya, like, communicate for the first however many years of this relationship that they have. There is a lot of sex because that's important to their characters. But I also don't think it's like sex for the sake of being sex, if that makes sense. Like, it is the plot.
It's the plot.
It's kind of like a show. It's like a show that's like a friends with benefits type show needs sex because they're friends with benefits. This is their relationship.
It's literally there to tell the story. Like, that's the function of it. And I get kind of provoked when I hear people just talking about it like it's porn, because I'm just like, have you even watched a porn if you're comparing this to porn? I mean, what even?
Suddenly, yeah. I mean, sure, they show a lot of different positions and a lot of sex acts happening, but you see ass. Like, that's the most you're seeing in this show, which is not the first show we've seen bare ass in.
Jacob has said, like, he didn't want to show more than the ass because, like, that's not what this is. Like, he's showing the sex because he's telling a story through that. Like, their whole relationship and how they started out, the consent, the build-up, how all of that is part of their character development and so important for the story. But you also see, like, the in the later episodes, you're not getting the sex anymore because that's not the main focus of their relationship. And you don't, like, before the cottage, when you get to the cottage, you get more because, like, it's you're getting the sign of, like, they're comfortable in the relationship.
It's emotionally very different. The sex in the cottage.
So you get, like, it's sort of showing how their relationship have developed and they have developed as a couple. But it's also using these scenes to show that gay sex isn't otherly, like it's normal.
I was gonna say something about that too.
There isn't like it's not I've seen like straight people talking about like, oh, that's not how gay people have sex, and I'm just like, you're straight. How do you know, dude?
Yeah, I think the way the media, not all media, but a lot of the way the show is being promoted by the media really speaks to the way queer sex is seen as like this otherworldly, like not in the norm, like, oh my God, they're showing gay sex. Like this is unheard of type thing. It has to be porn
because it's gay sex.
Yeah. Whereas like when you actually see it in the show, like it's just part of their relationship. Like, and it's not any more like raunchy than straight sex can be. Like, it's not like they're doing insane kink shit. And even if they were, like, that's totally fine. Like, it's just two dudes who are very masculine
having a consenting
fucking each other.
relationship.
Like,
and I also love how they really went in on Ilya's like consent, because he's always asking, he's always checking in, and it's so hot. Ilya asking for consent is like the hottest thing. And Shane just being like, shut up, dude, but just do it. Like, because he's so uncomfortable with it.
He's just embarrassed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That whole thing, I think it provokes me a lot too, because I don't see people's issue with shows and films being sex heavy in the first place. I think a lot of it ties back to purity culture, especially when it comes to queer sex. It is that like othering thing. It's like trying to portray, people are like thinking that it's, I don't know, shameful. I don't know how to describe it, but it is very concerning. I think we've talked about this before, just like the rise in just this puritanical attitude around, like we talk about BL, but like queer love series. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't even know where else to go with that thought.
I did like see that there are some there's like an actor who went and criticized the show for the sex not being gay sex.
Oh, that was a whole discourse. Yeah. And then Francis Arnaud came out and like defended the show, who I'm pretty sure he is openly queer. So I just think queer sex, like I think this is what he said, there's no one way to do queer sex. And I also think like I don't know.
I feel really often the people who are criticizing the gay sex in it isn't taking into account that this show was made by a gay man. Like, you can say that it's a queer story originally written by a queer woman, and consumed by women. A lot of queer women also. But they always keep that narrative. It's written by women for women, and then just not taking into account the gay men that were a part of making it.
And also like the queer men that have resonated with the show, and like seeing the sex and the plot that comes with that, and the emotion that comes with that, and how that changes and impacts Shane and Ilya's relationship. Like people who have watched the show and have really connected with the characters, like I don't know, I just think once you connect with the characters and understand where they're at and why they're maybe using sex this way and what the sex means to them, like it just really changes your perspective on the sex as a whole. And I think a lot of this, like and even if it was just sex to be sex, why not?
Literally,
why not? Why can't we have that?
Why not?
Like there's so many, we've said this a few times, there's so many heterosexual shows that have sex for the sake of having sex, and they're not questioned ever. And so it really all comes down to the fact that it's gay sex and people having certain perceptions or expectations of that. But yeah, it's been really interesting because I think there's just so much more to this plot. Like, sex is so important in their relationship, but it also is not the only thing. Like, no. I mean, we talk about episode 5, which is, and we'll talk about this later, like one of the highest rated TV episodes of all time. And there was not even sex shown in that episode. So like, I don't know. I just think the show did such a good job of combining sex that is sexy and fun and hot and consenting with the emotional aspect of the characters trying to navigate that relationship and trying to navigate their feelings for each other, and how that progresses throughout the show through the use of sex and then later on more communication. So I don't know. I think it's just a little bit sad to boil the plot down to just sex, because that is a big part of the show. But
and also I've seen people trying to criticize that the realism, like where is the douching, where is the prepping, like all of that. But I'm to that, like, this is romance. This is basically fantasy. This is mess. We're not here for the realism, okay? And you see that in straight romance show too. There is no, like, really, you see a condom going on.
There's no foreplay.
Like, there's no freaking realism there either. And that's how we want it. So just, that's not a valid argument in this case.
No, that's so funny. Yeah, it's like we're not watching an educational YouTube video about sex.
Shane probably did before he had sex with Leia for the first time.
Oh, he definitely
I know
did.
He was on YouTube, how to douche correctly. Like,
dude, 100%, that boy was 100% prepped and ready before Ilya was at that door.
I've seen so many people, like, there's this one shot of him, like, standing so awkwardly in the hotel room doorway, and, like, a lot of people were, like, using it to be like, this is an autistic man. But I saw one comment that, like, I'm pretty sure Shane's standing like this because he's so thoroughly prepped for this sex that is the only way that he can stand right now. I love that. I love that man. He's just such a silly little guy. But, so, Kayla, you had put in here, do you think Hudson and Connor's unhinged sexual banter during the press run has contributed to this? And, you know, Hudson and his lack of media training. I do think that's, like, something that has really... It's almost like a promotional tool. Like, you know, I think the sex in general is a kind of like a big promotional tool for the show. But I do think, like, the actor specifically leaning so heavily into it and, like, liking the unhingedness of the fans, like tweeting all of the stuff about the sex and like about Shane's hole and stuff like that is definitely, like, I don't know. I think media is definitely clinging on to it and being like, I mean, how many times has Hudson gotten asked about the fact that he's not media trained? You know, like, media is definitely clinging on to that aspect. I do think a lot of fans are kind of like able to see the layers in it, almost, if that makes sense, of like having fun with the sex and how Hudson and Connor love reading their thirsty comments about them, but also like knowing the show more intimately. They're able to kind of like navigate the layers of that, if that makes sense.
100%. I agree.
It's almost like they're like supplying the demand.
And
almost like going along with what the media is saying, because they know that that's what's going to get people to watch and listen.
100%. Moving into talking about the writing of the show and how certain elements of the writing have stuck out to this. I think this also kind of goes in tandem with just talking about the plot in general. Pixie, you were saying you did read the books and that everything's pretty faithful throughout.
Yeah. I remember watching an interview with Jacob after the 3rd episode, and he was saying like, oh, after this, I go a little wild with the story. And I'm just like, after watching all the episodes, I'm just like, where did you go wild? Because this is pretty spot on. Like, you know the scene when Ilya is in Russia and with the glasses,
Oh,
off
yeah.
and on. Like that is directly from the books. And in the books it gets a little spicier, but obviously Jacob wanted it to be more about their connection than the sex at that point. So it's implied.
I saw, I think it was one they just put out the other day, excuse me, at the time of recording, where I think one of the questions they asked was like, what is a scene from the book that like you changed in the final product or something like that? And the only thing Jacob could think of is that Ilya's brother's name in the book is not Alexei, that his name in the book is Andre instead, and that was like the one thing that was like he didn't carry over from the book.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, it seems like I really do like, now that we're talking about this, I'm like, maybe I'll start the book tonight because I really want to see like I really enjoy reading novels of series. I think I've learned to maybe save it for after I've watched the show, because like when we did The Next Prince, like I was so frustrated with the changes from the novel to the series, and now that I've like fully watched this, I feel like I can go back and like just like insert the series into the novel in a way that's like more satisfying, if that makes sense.
One thing I really appreciate about like the adaptation is that you can really read the book and think, oh yeah, I remember this from the show and I like how they adapted it. It's kind of like you don't feel like you get into a part of it and just like, what happened here? This didn't happen in the show. Where did this come from? Like all the major points he managed to get into the show. And like I said earlier, the whole part of like using the text messages to show how Shane is thinking was amazing, because in the book you're just getting his inner monologue, so you know what he's thinking, and they showed it so well with the text. And also one major part of this is Shane and Ilya, how they portray their emotions without saying much does a lot for the storytelling. Like I've been watching reactors and like reviews and stuff like that of people who've never read the books or just watching the show, and I can notice how they're picking up on small things that isn't explicitly said out loud, that is from the book, but it's just like, yeah, they're just catching on to it because it's shown in such a great way. It's so hard like to find shows nowadays that do that, because everything, like I've said this when we did our top 5, that this show is like in most TV shows we get nowadays or movies, they have to like verbalize what they're doing and like talk like you're explaining it to a child in the show, because they think you're going to sit on your phone, so you're not going to pay attention to what's happening on the screen, so they're saying out loud everything like, now we're going down that road, like, okay, just go down. But they don't do that in Heated Rivalry, and I really love that because I was really locked in. I didn't feel like I was getting over-explained and didn't have to pay attention. Like, I felt like the way he made this show, I need to pay attention to this. So, I remember you mentioned, Alexa, that you thought the dialogue, before I watched it, you had watched it the first episode before me, and you mentioned you thought the dialogue was a little bit too bookish, like the dialogue. Yeah,
that was like one of my, and I don't know, maybe it was because I hadn't connected with the characters as much at that point, but that was one of the things I struggled with when I first watched the first 2 episodes, is that it's like I felt like I could tell what was like, I'm trying to think of how to describe it. Like, I don't know, it just felt like things were written in a way that was like,
this is how you write it in a book. Like, it's
yes, especially like I don't know, some things like I could tell like were inserted specifically for the book fans. You know, like you can always kind of pinpoint when like a show has a moment that came from the novel. And I think maybe because maybe they did that on purpose more in the first 2 episodes to kind of like,
pull in,
you know, really like lock in the book fans. But and like because I didn't have that connection to the book, I just felt like, okay, like I can kind of see what they're taking here, and you know, it just like it took me out of the story a little bit at some points. But I don't know, once I came back and felt more connected to the characters, I'm sure there were still those moments later on in the series. There's obviously, like you said, a lot of moments that were pulled directly from the book, but I just felt maybe just because I was more immersed in the story and the relationship of the characters, like once we got to episodes 3 is like kind of its own thing for me because it was about Scott and Kip. But even going into like episode 4, getting more into Shane and Ilya's storyline again, and then of course episode 5 just like felt like something I think I said this earlier, like such a standalone piece of media as a television episode that it just like I wasn't even thinking about what might have come from the book versus what was, you know, something Jacob wrote organically, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, my thoughts about the writing were a little bit like, it felt a little bit choppy to me in the first 2 episodes. But it definitely like, I did not have that issue later on. I will say that for sure.
Yeah.
I think, Kayla, you had a couple of examples here of some of the scenes where the writing really stood out. Of course, Ilya's Russian monologue in episode 5, which is once again something that really is a testament to Connor and his work on the Russian and the accent and his acting in that, but also just the writing of that scene. And even Shane, just like, I really loved like when they would switch the scene back to Shane and he was just listening with his eyes closed, like so immersed in what Ilya was saying.
Getting caught into it, yeah. I think like
TV.
It's really good writing for the show because this is one of the things that weren't in the books. Like it wasn't written out in the book, if you know what I mean. They're just like they do like a quick like, oh, this is what he said in Russian, kind of. You don't get like the full monologue how he says it, which has a really great impact when you see it on screen. So it's really like it hit so hard, and that is so impressive, sitting there and watching a show with language you do not understand at all, just with the subtitles, and it like hits you. And I think some of that is also Connor, because he's
100%
speaking with so much emotion and just like
the way his voice breaks at certain points, and you're just
in
like,
a language he doesn't actually understand.
Yeah, honestly, like, I mean, there is a reason episode 5 is rated so highly. There are multiple moments in that show that are such emotionally impactful moments for the characters and just like as TV writing in general. Like it's such just well-written, emotional TV and character writing.
I think I loved that scene so much because it was practically the turning point for Ilya and his character progression. Like that's whenever he was starting to realize like, I can't keep living like this. I got to get out of here. I can't live for other people, which is a theme that we'll touch on. And he's just like, I just can't take it anymore. Like I need to start living for myself. I want to actually pursue this relationship with Shane. I want to take it seriously. And it's like all of that was slowly hitting him over time, but after the time he had in Russia, and then he just goes in that tunnel and he's like finally saying it out loud. I think a lot of it hit for him.
Yeah.
When it was no longer in his mind and he was actually telling someone about it, even though Shane couldn't understand him.
Yeah, exactly. I think him saying it out loud was him knowing that like he couldn't turn back. Like after he said it out loud, there was no turning back to pretending like he doesn't love Shane. Like now he has said it out loud, like this is a real thing, and now he knows that like this is something he wants to pursue. This is a person he wants to be with in a way that he has never let himself consider before, especially not being with a man in that way because of his family and because of his, you know, growing up in Russia and things like that. And then that combined with the kiss on the ice really like just cementing to him that it is being open and being queer is a possibility. And, you know, having that collective moment of catharsis almost at the end of that episode was like kind of like the nail in the coffin of him deciding, okay, I'm going to go to the coffin and this is it. Like, this is me taking that step to make this a relationship. And then even in the beginning of this episode 6, he admits that he's terrified about it, but he is excited to do it. So
I also think it's really interesting that Shane and Ilya's relationship and why they can't go public isn't as much about them actually being gay, but actually more about their rivalry.
Hockey rivalry.
Which is it's so interesting because how Rachel Reed like wrote that, because it does make sense. Like, and it's not even that the rivalry was of their making. Like, the media, the fans put them in that position, and it's just so. I heard, by the way, like a little tangent. I heard that Rachel Reed was inspired by 2 players that actually exist.
One of them is on the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby. And I think the other one is a Russian player as well. So
he's literally Russian. That is so funny. But everyone wanted like to say that it's not a fan fiction. Inspiration.
Inspiration. It almost kind of like, to put it in BL terms, like them not being able to come out because of their rivalry is kind of similar to like BL boys not being able to openly date because they are in a ship. Like the fans of the Montreal Metros and the Boston Raiders have so much stake in this rivalry between the 2 top-rated hockey players in the league, and there is so much like pressure on them, on their teams, that comes from the fans, the media, the spectators, the commentators, that it's almost like, even though they have never really felt the rivalry to that extent because they have been into each other since before they even started playing, really, there is so much pressure on that like the idea of dissolving that rivalry takes Shane planning out years of their life to make it believable that they would naturally stop being rivals. And like, obviously it's not completely the same as being in like a fake BL ship, but it does kind of like, there is like an expectation in the same way that comes with like not wanting to let down the fans and not wanting to let down the brands and things like that, where it's like there are certain things you have to keep secret. So,
and let's be real, they're still pretty young, so they still have like a long career to think about. Like with Scott and Kip, like Kip obviously
he's
is
100,000 years old,
and Scott is 100,000 years old. So apparently he's past his prime.
Scott's story definitely came more from his fear of being out as a queer man in the league. But I think there definitely is an element of that with Shane and Ilya. I think with Shane especially. But I think especially in episode 5, they really emphasize with Shane having that whole plan how like they really just want people to stop seeing them as rivals so that they can be
hang
seen in public together without it being like, the idea of coming out as a couple is still years down the line for them. But even just being able to be seen in public and it not being like
weird
headline worthy news is a huge thing for them. So, Speaking of Scott, and struggling with his queerness in the hockey space, his speech at the beginning of episode 6 when he is named as MVP, where he talks about how he felt very alienated by hockey because of the language that's used and the slurs that get thrown around in the locker room and on the ice, and how that's the main reason that he hid who he was for so many years. And I think that speaks to the reality of a lot of homophobia in male sports specifically. And I know a lot of people who have watched the show have said, I don't watch sports professionally, but I think a lot of people have said hockey is still one of the most homophobic spaces in professional sports. So I think that speech from Scott really speaks to that in real life. Yeah. And also, like, you know, Hudson kind of talking about how professional players have sent anonymous emails and sent him and Rachel DMs after the show also kind of speaks to that. So that speech was definitely very impactful for the character, but also for a real life perspective as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how Rachel basically managed to predict how the community would react to something like that, because she wrote it in the book. Like, Scott gets a lot of messages from anonymous people talking about how great it was and everything, and the fact that this show also has meant that
seen that happening.
It's been happening, and not. I know the actor for Scott also has received a lot. So it's. I just it shows that Rachel really has like a good grasp of, I don't know, like reality. Is that a way to say it? Like, she really does understand societal reactions. And this was written really long time ago. Like, how old is this book? Like 10 years?
Yeah,
it's that old.
Yeah, it's pretty old. She has like 7 books in the show series.
I didn't realize. I knew there were a lot. I didn't realize there were 7 books.
Yeah, there's
10
like
years ago.
A lot of there's like 3 or 4 separate stories that each have like 2 books each or something like
universe, that. So they're all interconnected. You will meet the other characters from the other books in all of the books. But
like Scott and Kip.
It's Heated Rivalry and The Long Game.
The Long Game
is
are
Shane and Ilya books. Yeah.
I think it also shows that representation matters. Representation in the media matters, and it makes a real impact, especially when we're talking about sports. The nature of sports, it matters a lot. So it's really cool that people are messaging the people involved in the show, like closeted players, and being like, thank you for this. This like makes me feel seen. This is exactly something that I've experienced. It's just nice.
It is.
Let's get into some of the themes of the show. We have a couple of major themes here, and I think obviously we are not going to cover every theme. There's so much in the show, and I think these are some of the themes that really hit home with us. Living for yourself and not for your parents. I think this is big for both Shane and Ilya. Obviously Ilya has a lot of family trauma that he has gone through. Obviously his dad being a conservative cop along with his brother, and how, you know, he only really let himself even consider something else happening with Shane after his dad had died and he had cut off Alexei. There's even, I think, even in that, he still holds a lot of guilt towards his family and, like, you know, the fact that his brother hated him because he was queer, and that's not something he'll never be able to change. And he knew that his father would never be able to truly know him because he had to hide his queerness. And I even think there's probably something there with his mom too, of wanting to achieve things for her honor and for her sake. Like, I think it wasn't translated in the show, but when he won the cup, like, a lot of people had picked up that, like, when he's holding up the cup, he's like, this is for you, Mom, basically. So I think he holds a lot there. Obviously Shane's mom especially puts a lot of expectation on him, in terms of his professional life and the brand deals, and him being Asian in professional sports, and him feeling a lot of pressure because of that. And I think, not wanting to disappoint his mom and the future, I guess, that she envisions for him as a professional Asian athlete is a lot of the reason why, even though he knows in his heart that his family would be okay with him being gay, I think that expectation that sits on him from his momager, we love you, but she's quite a momager.
Yeah.
Is a lot of the reason why he does not ever broach that topic with his parents before episode 6, and he gets discovered by his dad. So
yeah, I think like especially I know a lot of people with the mom really got a bad vibe in the beginning, but by the whole conversation at the end there, it really helped to see her humanity behind all of this. But yeah, I really resonated with Ilya's struggles with like having especially a dad who is very overbearing and trying to control your life, and him also losing his mind and who he is. And I just like it really also shows how hard it is to cut off family. Like it is like even if they treat you like trash, getting to a point where you actually cut them off completely, even if it's for your like your own health, and like you've been through a lot of trauma and abuse and stuff, like it is so hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of guilt that comes from that too. So 100%. One of the other themes, which, kind of coincides with what we were saying about Scott Hunter's speech, the show says a lot about homophobia and hypermasculinity in the sports space. Obviously, the show is specifically existing within the realm of hockey, but I think this can apply to any male sport, even not even just on the professional level. Like, I think male sports as a whole are filled with a lot of hyper masculine expectations, and how those impact your sense of self and how you portray yourself and things like that.
I think especially in typical contact sport, where the men have to like crash into each other or stuff like that.
It's very homoerotic by nature. It's so they have to like combat that.
Yeah, they're combating like the homoeroticness because society tells them that being gay is bad. So being perceived as gay is like the worst thing. It's like the literally worst thing that can happen to them. So they're all overcompensating that, leading to homophobia, which is bad. I think like it's interesting that we've come so far as a society, but we're still at this point where there aren't any openly gay men in the NHL. Is that the National Hockey League?
Yeah, I know there's
crazy.
Like former hockey players that have come out after like retiring and stuff like that, but
not while they were active. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how this would fit in there, but I also feel like there's a lot of violence attached to the hypermasculinity in sports.
Yeah. I mean, there's like this expectation, especially with hockey, that like they're always fighting on the ice, and that like they're always expected to like lose teeth because they're like beating each other up and shit on the ice.
You know what's really interesting in book 3 that Rachel Reed has, like Tough Guy, I think it's called. It dives into the whole like he's a big burly, he has to be violent and scary, and he doesn't want to be violent.
There's also kind of like Ilya kind of has that reputation because he's Russian, and like he's like the brooding, like doesn't say much, like Eastern European man.
Oh,
when,
and
like,
if he says anything, it's just to
he's being a little
you.
shit. Yeah, he's being a little shit. And like he gets like this reputation as like an asshole because he's like, you know, a little shit when he speaks to the media and stuff like that. But that's not who he is, obviously. And I think that also makes his like really emotional moments more impactful. But yeah, I think it's very interesting to explore like the differences between how queerness is viewed in men's professional sports versus women's professional sports, because women are almost like expected to be gay if they're in a professional sport. Like
no one
I played softball growing up, and like softball, like if you played softball, like people assumed you were a lesbian, which yes, I did turn out to be queer in the end. I'm not a lesbian, but I am bi. So like maybe I played into the stereotype a little bit, but yeah, it's just like so interesting to see how like masculinity specifically is tied to homophobia in sports.
There are so many stories, like the whole I've heard so many people talking about how the storyline of Heated Rivalry, if you go into the women's league, you will find
there's so many that are already like that. There's so many like out and dating like professional women's athletes.
I know it happens in professional football as well. Plenty of like captains who are on rival teams and they're married. Okay.
Yep. And then the final theme that we had pulled that we wanted to talk about was just this idea of personal change leading to societal change, which is what we really see kind of honed in on in episodes 5 and 6 with Scott coming out, and how that leads to Ilya and Shane wanting to entertain a future.
And I mean, in Rachel Reed's whole universe, you kind of see that domino effect afterwards. So,
yeah. I'm curious to see how and don't give me any spoilers, but how this will be addressed in season 2 or book 2. You know, which is what I'm assuming season 2 will be written off of. And how like
Jacob,
you know, Shane and Ilya,
it's they're gonna use book 2 of Ilya and Shane, the long game.
I've seen some light spoilers that I'm not going to mention here just for the sake of,
I will say I haven't actually read that one yet, and all I've heard is that get ready for heartbreak. It's just like, okay.
I can imagine.
Yeah, even Hudson said when he was on Jimmy Fallon that there's a lot of meanies in season 2. So I think maybe we will see more of the outward impact of Scott coming out, and maybe even Shane and Ilya coming out, and how the hockey universe around them reacts to that.
I imagine that they're gonna get caught out somehow. Like, it won't be...
That's kind of... I think they will be outed, too, is what my fear is, unfortunately.
Like, they will be in a comfortable place that they're comfortable with, and...
Because they're not ready to be out yet.
No, not at all. They're
going to not have a choice.
Clear that they will wait until their careers are done and over with. But, yeah, I think they're going to get forced out, and that's what's going to create the drama.
So, yeah, I think we'll see that societal change coming from personal change as a huge theme in season 2. And I think the final 2 episodes of season 1 really set that up with the characters.
Can I also mention that there isn't really an antagonist in this story at all?
It's all in the brain. The antagonist is your mind in season 1. Your fear of commitment and... everything like that.
There's no
I mean,
if you look,
there's bad people, but like Alexei or like Ilya's dad aren't really antagonists.
They're not really, like, you see them in 2 scenes, but they're not really a part of the story. And if anyone is like an antagonist, it's the freaking podcast, Man in the Crease.
The one antagonist.
Scott Hunter's ops.
100%.
Oh my God. The Empty Netters would never talk about Scott Hunter that way.
No, never.
Yeah. I think we're in for a lot with season 2, but yeah. So those are a couple of the themes we picked up on. Be sure to, share more themes that stuck out to you in the comments, because like I said, I feel like we're really just scratching the surface with so much of the show. We've been talking for an hour and a half and we still have a lot more to talk about. some of the things that we wanted to dive deeper on, and Kayla, I don't know if you kind of want to talk about this one because I know it resonated with you, was the fact that Shane is canonically autistic. He is, in the books, confirmed by Rachel Reed, and also Hudson has talked a lot about that going into his character work of Shane as well.
Yeah, I picked up on this like immediately, and I didn't know that this was like a confirmed thing for his character. So I was like, maybe it's just one of those things where I'm reading it like that. I'm just like taking it that way. But then like the confirmation when that happened, I was like, yup, yup. I love just, I guess, how they portrayed it, because I think sometimes people have a fear that the way that characters with autism are portrayed in shows might be a bit like stereotypical in an offensive way, but I did not get that vibe at all with Shane's character. And I feel there were just so many moments where I was like, oh my gosh, same like just the way his brain works is so relatable. Like him always needing things to be like neat and tidy. We see him like folding his clothes before he hooks up with Ilya, which is so funny, but like 100% yes. And then him just like being such a rule follower, I think, is a big part of it too. Like even when he's cooking, whenever he cannot deviate at all from the recipe, I just had a conversation about how I cannot do that. Like, if I had to deviate from a recipe, I would just give up. I wouldn't be able to do it. And, like, it's so funny. That scene's so funny because it's like, Ilya's like, well, why didn't you cut it in half?
It's like, that's not what the recipe
is. Like, the wheels, yeah, the wheels start turning.
It doesn't even, like, it's not even an option.
Didn't connect to it until Ilya said anything, Exactly. Even if he knows in the back of his head that makes more sense because there's only two of them. It's like he can't do it. He just can't. And I get that. Even like when he puts his head down after his parents finally find out that him and Ilya are together, he puts his head down because he's like very overwhelmed. At first I thought it was overwhelmed, but I think it's more so that he was embarrassed. Yeah. I think it's that like he can't like fully deal with his own embarrassment, and also I think that Shane I think he really doesn't like being misunderstood, right?
Because I've noticed, which is also relatable, I noticed a lot because I rewatched the series again so we could do this, and I noticed a lot of moments where someone would like slightly misunderstand something that he said, or like they would take it a certain way, and he would like quickly snap at them, like he was angry. He would quickly be like, no, that's not what I said. That's not what's going on here. And it's not like he's mad. It's just like that's his gut reaction, is to correct what the person thinks about him or what the person thinks he's saying, that was really interesting too. And I guess just him like quietly staring all the time and maybe not realizing that he's like staring for such a long time. Maybe even like to an extent looking like he's not interested, or maybe like he's unapproachable. But we know that he's not this like unapproachable, like mean person. So I just think like all the little nuances in Shane's character that they added so much. They just added so much for his character. And again, like, I don't think any of it was stereotypical in any way. It was very realistic, and I've seen a lot of other people say that they relate to his character as well. But I really think it made me connect with his character even more. I already did, but the confirmation of his autism, I think, made me just feel more for his character, feel on a deeper level, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that I've seen some people who maybe have not watched the show or are taking scenes out of context, like take the flat affect that, Hudson has said he purposely applied to Ilya because he struggles to express, like he does stare off a lot of the times, and like use that to say Hudson is a bad actor when it is something he very purposely did to encompass the character of Shane. And it's so interesting to hear him talk about this character. I think he said that he took a lot of like inspiration from his dad. I guess maybe his dad is autistic, and he pulled a lot of Shane's mannerisms from what he's seen his dad do over the years. But yeah, he's talked a lot about, I think it was in the recent Andy Cohen interview maybe, that he was saying like when autism is shown in shows, it's very often shown in one way. And while that's not necessarily the incorrect way, like there are a lot of autistic people who exist with those characteristics. It wasn't what they felt was how Shane's autism would represent. And so that's why, you know, he went with more of like these more subtle things in like the flat affect and his vocal mimicry, like the wow, genetic, like that line going so viral when it's like this little moment of him mimicking Ilya and like the clothes and things like that. So yeah. Ooh, Kayla, you had wrote about some real life hockey drama that's going on right now.
Oh yeah. And it relates to Shane's character. And a theme in the story. But yes, there has been some real life hockey drama recently. Shout out to my friend Alex for putting this on my radar, because I probably would have never known that this is a thing that happened. But basically, there is this Filipino American hockey player named Jason Robertson, and he was recently snubbed for the Winter Olympics. So basically, there's this guy named Bill Guerin. He is the general manager for the U.S. men's Olympic ice hockey team. So he's basically the one who chooses which players go on the Olympic team. And he snubbed Jason, even though he, from what I've gathered, is a top player in the NHL right now and has been for quite a while. And this has been actually very big news in the sports realm, because a lot of people are pissed off about it. Like the fans all across the board, no matter who they're fans of, they're like, this makes no sense. Some of the coaches have spoken out and be like, this makes no sense. And other people on other teams, his teammates as well, they've been like, this makes no sense. And even his coach, he's part of the Dallas Stars. That's his team. And even his coach has said there's not one coach of the 32 in the league who don't think this guy should be on the Olympic team. So all that said, there has been a lot of speculation that the snub has something to do with race. This isn't like some fringe conspiracy theory. A lot of people believe that Jason was not chosen for the Olympic team because ice hockey is a predominantly white sport, and they maybe didn't want an Asian guy representing the United States. I delved a little deeper into this discourse on sites like Reddit to see what NHL fans were saying. I saw someone say Bill Guerin can't be racist because he put a black guy on the team. And I was like, what?
Let's talk about the concept of tokenism.
I was like, let's listen to the words that are coming out of our mouths for a second. And it's also like someone can be specifically racist against just Asian people. Like it's so interesting. A lot of people also are thinking that, you know, it's not like some outward racism thing. It's more of like, you know, like these old heads in the hockey league. That's what they're referring to them as. Like these people who run everything in the hockey league who are a bit older, they have preconceived stereotypes about people, about people from certain races. So people were thinking maybe like in the back of his head, it's not a fully conscious thought, but he's maybe thinking like an Asian guy isn't going to be as tough as a player than everyone else. Like maybe these internalized preconceived racism. Notions. Internalized racism. An interesting note is that Jason's teammate, who is the goaltender on their team, was chosen for the team. But yeah, I watched some interviews from him, and it's one of those things where like you can tell that he's pissed off, but he's very
Yeah, he
diplomatic
has to be.
and
Yeah.
graceful about it. And he's kind of just like, life goes on. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I really wish that like I understood hockey stats a bit more, but when I looked at his numbers, they were all high. Like when Ilya jokes about like, oh, I said like 50 goals or whatever, his numbers are like
yeah.
Like this guy is seriously a top player. So it's just an interesting thing that happened in the hockey world recently.
It's like,
I don't know.
It's not a great timing to snub a player considering how many eyes are on hockey now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting because I was reading a lot about how like hockey has been in a decline for a long time, and how like their attendance numbers are lower than ever.
Not enough gayness in hockey.
Yeah. And obviously there's a lot of people who are like going to hockey games for the first time because of Heated Rivalry, and like although I don't know if this will have a long-term impact on hockey as a whole, it's definitely bringing a lot of attention to the sport in this moment. So that is very rough timing to get yourself embroiled in allegations of racism against an Asian American player when we are watching a show with an Asian American hockey player who has taken over everyone's heart. Yeah. So I'd be really curious. I'm so curious. I want to get opinions from like hockey fans who have watched the show and like how they think if these things tie together at all. I've seen like some TikToks and stuff from people who watch hockey, enjoy hockey, who have also watched the show, but I'm trying to convince my brother to watch it because I know he's a hockey fan, but I don't think it's been successful thus far.
Dude, make him watch Empty Netters talking about the show first.
It's actually not a bad idea.
That will help.
That's a good segue.
I know that it's further down on the list talking about this, but we're not gonna give white men more credit and
hype than
white men have enough, okay? But also watching these straight white men talking so positively and just having so much joy over a gay TV
just
show,
being genuinely so invested in the show, so invested in the show,
and I just like it. I'm sorry, but it's sort of healing something in me that I didn't know needed healing. And I just, it is what we need. Like, we need this casual joy for gay TV shows, for gayness in general, queerness. And like, me and Kayla talked about, we watched the Empty Netters watching the last episode live. Gold. Gold.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fake that shit. And there is probably a lot of people faking their reactions right now to get in on the hype. But dude, they're like you cannot fake that reaction to the show. Well, they were more invested than I was. And that is saying something.
No, for real. They were picking up on things that, I was like, how did I never even think of that? How did that not even cross my mind? It's not even like it's like hockey details. No. It's like the emotional character stuff. I'm like, whoa, these white men they're right. I hate to say it.
Yeah, they were picking up on things that are really obvious in the book because you're getting the inner monologue, but it's really subtle in the show. And they were picking up on it. And I'm just like, what is this? No, I found so much joy in watching them talk about it. Them and the what chaos?
What chaos? Yeah.
Them too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we talked about in our episode where we talked about BL and mainstream media, just how a lot of people are drawn to straight men specifically reacting to queer media because it so starkly goes against a lot of what we expect from straight men when it comes to queerness. But yeah, I think with like the empty netters and what chaos and these men specifically, it doesn't feel performative in the way that some reactions do, because like you can see there's so much genuine like reaction and investment in the characters, and you know, the hockey aspect of it even, and like talking about like, you know, this is reasonable, this is not reasonable, like they so genuinely care about the story that it's just really enjoyable to watch. And like
if
a white man is a white man at the end of the day, but it was a lot of fun to watch them like throughout the show.
If anyone hasn't watched like the Empty Netters reviews of the episodes, they are worth watching through. They have a lot of genuine good observations, and I just think that watching their joy is really, it's just like really fantastic. I don't usually like watching reviews. Like, I like watching reactions where you have the show going on in the corner and watching them react at the same. But this is just that they've already watched the show. They're just like talking like we're doing right now.
It's almost like what we do as a right podcast. Now, right? It's like that's what podcasting is when it comes to something.
So, but it's so fun to listen to. And I was shocked at
so
first.
Funny.
One of the guys said that he didn't even know it was a gay show before he started watching. And...
Their assistant tech guy. That was so funny. Oh, it's so funny. And then his realization, he's like...
the shower scene, just like, oh, like, maybe I knew by then.
Oh my gosh. It also just like goes to show that sometimes straight people just like don't pick up on the gayest things.
No, right?
Like the gayest that always reminds me of my brother-in-law. Like he'll watch something that is so gay and not pick up on that it's gay at all. And I'm like, how do you not pick up? That's literally the whole story. But, it's so funny.
That's so funny.
And can I just say, I started calling Ilya Rosie because of them. I love that nickname. I think it's so cute.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I know that they recently did an interview with Ksenia because the one guy was like obsessed with Svetlana. They called her Sveti, I'm pretty sure. I love them giving nicknames to everyone. I know they have the actor who plays Kip recently went in the studio with them. I think they said that they maybe are going to have Hudson and Connor on. I don't know if that'll be separately or together. But I know Hudson like reposted a lot of their stuff on his Instagram stories. Too, with them. He talked about them on Jimmy Fallon. It was really cute. I mean, I feel like, you know, while we're here, we might as well just get into, I feel like we can't deep dive into the show without talking about the reception of it and why it has been so massive. Empty Netters is one aspect, but I mean, I don't think you can go on social media without seeing this show mentioned. The edits are everywhere. Hudson and Connor are everywhere. They've been catapulted to stardom basically overnight, and they've both talked about how insane that has been for them. I mentioned, you know, they're on the late nights, they're on Jimmy Fallon, Hudson or Connor is going on Seth Meyers, they're presenting at the Golden Globes.
It's insane.
Like, all of this stuff has happened within the 6 weeks that the show has been on air, and I think it really speaks to the cultural phenomenon that the show has become, that all of these huge platforms are jumping at the gun to have these actors on their shows or presenting at their award show. I mentioned episode 5. At the time we're recording this, I'm pretty sure it's the second highest rated episode of television on IMDb of all time.
It was right.
It was like behind an episode of Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it was right behind Breaking Bad. It has gone down since then because haters have been in, and after hearing that it was up with Breaking Bad. The only reason it was behind Breaking Bad was because Breaking Bad has been at the top for such a long time, but it had the same score. But it fell down.
I mean, it's still at a 9.9. I'm pretty sure it is like the highest rated television episode of 2025.
Especially
episode
like
6 was also at a 9.9. One thing that's really been interesting to me is seeing people who have never experienced fandom before like enter fandom psychosis because of this show. Like, I have been in fandom my entire life. Like, it goes back to like when I was 10 years old, standing the Jonas Brothers and Justin Bieber. Like, I've always been a fan. I've always been in a fandom. It's the reason we're doing this podcast now. But there are people my age who did not grow up with that fandom experience, who are now like
joining the fandom,
experiencing it for the first time, and they're scared of it. I'm like, welcome in, friends. Like, it's a lifestyle. You know, I see people talking about how like they have to block like Hudson and Connor because they're so obsessed with like searching them on social media. So I don't know, the cultural phenomenon has just been really interesting to see. You know, everyone's still quoting lines from the show. Everyone's still at the cottage. Like, I'm coming to the cottage has become such a thing.
The people who are doing TikToks of showing their parents the show, that is wild. That is some next
people watching
level
it with their
shit.
Grandmothers, like
That would be me.
Holy shit.
My favorite thing is all the people who are recreating scenes with like their little stuffed animals or their little collectibles, and they're like doing like little like mini cinema things. But yeah, I mean, it's just such a crazy cultural like phenomenon that happened in the last couple of weeks.
It is so nice that it's a positive viral thing, because like it's gotten so huge and so like overwhelmingly positive that the negative stuff is kind of getting buried in all the positivity.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to round this out and talking about why we think this has been such a huge cultural moment. I think largely like the last year sucked for a lot of reasons, whether it's economic, whether it's political, whether it's personal. 2025 was a really tough year for people. I think especially in the West, like in America, even in places like Canada and Europe, the last year or so has seen a rampant uprise and a lot more conservatism and fascist politics. So I think there's something really special that a show that is so explicitly queer in its sex and its romance and its writing and all these elements that has taken over the world. So I think there's a lot that makes that really important to people and has drawn a lot of queer people, especially into watching that show, seeing other people have these visceral emotional reactions. So I think that's I think one of the big things that's like really made it, maybe not the reason it's gotten so big, but I think it's why the fact that it's gotten so big feels so important, if that makes sense. Also, just like airing between Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holidays are tough for people. So, you know, a little bit of gay romance to help you get through spending the holidays with your shitty family members, especially if you are a queer person and maybe don't have the best relationship with your family. I think, you know, that's something a lot of people have pointed out. But
I heard that it was originally supposed to air next month, but they rushed the airing because they wanted to, like, there was a lot of hype from the readers even before it was done, and they wanted to keep the momentum. At the same time, they knew like Christmas season, like people aren't at work, they have time.
People have time to binge watch.
So I think it was smart. Like, I don't think maybe it would have had the same impact if it was in February. But yeah.
No, I 100% agree. There were so many people that were like using their Christmas breaks. So like you said, like watch the show with their parents while they were home for Christmas. I saw someone like gifted like their mom an HBO Max subscription or something so she could watch Heated Rivalry. And the mom was so excited. She was like, "Is it gay? I'm so excited." I was like, yeah. This is what the people needed, honestly. And honestly, like, it's good TV, and I think word of that spread. I think the sex did sell, and the NSFW content might have been why a lot of people wanted to click play from the start. But then I think once you get people reacting to the full story, like seeing people sob on TikTok over episode 5, like, I think was also like, you know, you just get this full emotional range from everyone who's watching the show, and it makes you want to be part of what is happening. It is interesting talking about, and we kind of touched on this before when talking about how, you know, male media is viewed as something written by women for women, that this has kind of reignited that debate. It's also reignited the huge debate specifically in the BL fandom of what is a BL versus what is queer media. And I think we're going to have a discussion on that eventually. We've decided that's an episode topic we want to tackle this year. So stay tuned for that one, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. But yeah, like those discussions have kind of been reignited in all of the popularity of this show. And, you know, I think that's discourse that unfortunately we're never going to get rid of. And once something gets popular, it's inevitably going to come back into the discussion. But yeah, all that said, I think the enjoyment of the show is definitely outweighing the discourse, at least right now. It's easy enough for me to ignore all the frustrating discussions and then just like go watch another edit of Shane and Ilya on TikTok, you know.
There's a related thing that I've been seeing that's along with the, you know, there's been so much of the Fujo debate with this show, but I noticed there have also been a lot of people calling this show or saying that this show is like two white hockey guys. And I was like, that's interesting. That's interesting. It's like, do they either
Did
don't
they actually
know
watch
that
the show?
Character it no. They either don't know that Shane's character is Asian, or they don't think that
it's valid.
He's Asian enough.
Like he's too white
I've seen
passing.
that a lot too.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's definitely a discussion to be had about how much of Western queer media is overwhelmingly white, but I also think this show and having Shane, and especially the fact that him being Asian American or Asian Canadian, sorry, he's not American, Asian Canadian, is like one of the first things that they talk about in relation to his character. It's like you just had to watch the first 5 minutes of the show to hear Yuna like give him that talk about how important him being Asian was to the sport. So yeah, that's always an interesting discussion. What people view as valid representation, especially when it comes to being white passing versus not being white passing, and just being mixed as a whole, often not being seen as valid representation, which a lot of nuance there. But yeah, that's I've seen a lot of that as well. A lot of videos being made around that. I do think that
like people are gonna do that, say that no matter what show it is. I remember I saw even people discussing diversity from Bridgerton, and I'm just like, have you seen Bridgerton? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah. There's always room for more diversity, I will say. But I think it's also important to not downplay.
It's always a valid discussion to have, but you can't ignore the actual diversity that's in a show because it doesn't fit into your view of diversity. Like, you can't just say that, no, you're not Asian enough. You're not Asian enough. Like, that doesn't count. What?
Yeah. I do think we need more Black queer romance. I think the problem is this discussion of no representation versus like representation from darker skinned Black and brown queer are kind of two separate things, but also the same thing, if that makes sense. Like, it's valid to point out that this show does not have a lot of Black and brown people in it, obviously not in the titular roles, but also at the same time, it's like there is a person of color in the main role in this show, and as frustrating as it is to not see Black and brown people get those same opportunities, like, I don't think you can take away from Shane as a character and Hudson as an Asian Canadian man playing that character. So, this could be a whole discussion in and of itself.
Yeah.
And I think Kayla and I probably have a lot of feelings there that we could get into. But yeah, maybe one day. It's not really super relevant to BL. It's more specific to this show. But yeah. The other thing that we had as one of the reasons why this show is really drawing people in, and I think we kind of talked about this in the beginning when talking about how people are interested in like indie media that is bringing something new, and the fact that these are actors that people have not really seen before. You know, like I said, a couple of them have had some roles. Connor was in the second Joker movie, apparently. Did not watch that, so I would have never pulled that he was there. But mostly these are newer, lesser known actors and fresher faces that really like lend something to the show. Like, I saw someone saying, like, if Timothée Chalamet was playing one of these roles, like, they would be watching the whole thing saying, that's Timothée Chalamet, not that's Shane and Ilya, you know? So I think there's really something to be said with indie media using lesser known faces and how that really allows you to immerse yourself in the story. And I also think people really like being able to be on this journey with Hudson and Connor, like as they're up and up, and the rest of the cast as well, hopefully getting some more of those opportunities as well. I think people kind of love going along with them on this journey. It's kind of like when you are a fan of a K-pop group from their debut and you kind of get to watch them grow. There's like a sense of like, those are my sons, that kind of like, or those are my daughters, that kind of comes with that. So I think a lot of people are feeling that towards Hudson and Connor as well.
How they like represent themselves and represent the show and everything, and like it really just, you want to support them because they're so positive and so just fun, and
I just love the energy, the positive energy that this show has brought to pop culture right now. Like, I love a pop culture phenomenon.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's so much. Like, I even like had to end up skipping over some of the things we had written down just because we are at 2 hours. This will be cut down a little bit when I edit it, but we've been talking about the show for 2 hours now, and we have barely scratched the surface. Like, there's so much we could say that we didn't get a chance to cover here. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that we all came out of the show with a lot of love for it. If that wasn't clear from everything we're saying here, I think we all really enjoyed Heated Rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, and if you've seen our top 5, this was my number one even before it was over.
It's so funny because when you said that at the time, I was like, interesting, because I was not connecting to the show this way at all at that time. I was locked in. But now coming back, I'm like, I mean, I get it.
Yeah, I think after like the 3 first episodes, I saw where Jacob was going with it. And also it helped when reading the book, I knew where it was going. And from what I've seen, I trusted that he would bring it home, kind of. So I knew I was going to love this. I knew I was going to be obsessed with it. I had already seen like the first 3 episodes like 10 times. So yeah.
And now
do not regret at all.
Yeah, we give Pixie some of her street cred back, because a lot of the times when she includes a show that hasn't finished yet in her top 10, it doesn't end very well. But this time you really saw the future with this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, so we're excited about this show. I think, like Kayla said, I'm loving seeing the positive fandom moment, cultural moment that's coming out of it, and I hope we still get to live in that for a little bit longer. And it's really hard with. It's nice that this show is a weekly release. I think, aside from the first 2 episodes, because binge culture tends to make things go by a lot faster. But I feel like we're sitting in the moment of the show for a little bit longer. And them doing like this extended press run is helping as well. They still got more press upcoming. So I'm enjoying living in the moment. So yeah, if you've made it this far and you've sat through all 2 hours of us talking about Heated Rivalry, be sure to leave your thoughts about the show down below. I'm really curious to see what other people picked up on that we maybe didn't pick up on or didn't get a chance to touch on while we were doing this discussion. Share with us some of your favorite moments or scenes from the show. I know there's a lot of fan favorites that are out there, but let us know which ones are your particular favorites, and let us know what you hope to see in season 2. If you know what's going to happen, please don't put spoilers in the comments and ruin it for people. But let us know what you would like to see or what you're hoping to see. And be sure, if you haven't already done so, to give this video a like, to make sure you're subscribed to our channel, and share this episode with your other friends who you have been forcing to watch Heated Rivalry content. I know me and my friends have just been sending TikTok edits to each other back and forth, so maybe throw this episode in there with your next slew of Heated Rivalry content that you send to your friends. You can also find our links in the description. We have a Patreon where we do more in-depth discussion on like weekly, bi-weekly episodes of shows like this. We do reviews, we do early access to guest and interview content. You can find all that below, along with our social media links where you can follow us for more LoveCast if you're interested. But that is going to be all for this episode. We will see you all in a few weeks with episode 2 of season 6 of LoveCast. And until then, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.